Time now, 9:34. I'm glad to have on with us now Hornell Mayor John Buckley. The mayor was originally going to be on with the St. James doctor and the CEO, but we had to reschedule things a little bit. Glad to welcome Mayor Buckley once again to our microphones. Hello, John.
Hey, good morning, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
Mayor Buckley, I hinted at this in my 8:30 interview this morning with Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns. Sales tax and governments, local governments getting revenues. What's going on there?
Well, with the basically the economic shutdown that we've seen, with businesses closed, revenues drop right off. Obviously, if everyone's staying at home, if the restaurants are closed, the movie theaters are closed, the malls are closed, and all the businesses that are not deemed essential services, when you have a large segment of the economy that has basically come to a grinding halt, that has a huge dramatic impact on sales tax, and sales tax revenue, just to put it in perspective, is the single largest revenue for the city of Hornell, and this will affect every city, village, county government throughout the state of New York. And obviously, New York State is ground zero for the coronavirus. In fact, I saw a news report earlier this morning that if New York State were considered its own country, New York State would be ranked 6th in the world as far as the number of coronavirus cases, just to put it in perspective. But it's going to have long-reaching ramifications, Brian. The city of Hornell doesn't have the luxury of waiting around to see how it all plays out. Our budget's due next week. Our fiscal year begins April 1st, so we're having to craft our budget now. I'll tell you, 3 weeks ago, we had the budget pretty much finished. We had it about 90-95% done with just a couple small modifications to make to it. It was looking to be a very good year for us, a healthy year. I'll tell you, with everything that's shut down, and I'm not advocating that we need to open things up right away. Obviously, the main concern is people's health. We want to make sure that people are safe. We want to make sure that they're healthy. We want to flatten the curve and keep people away from this virus as best that we can. But you have to realize that shutting down the economy to the extent that we did will have long-reaching and dramatic effects on not just people's jobs, not just people's businesses, but local governments as well. And that is going to really hinder our ability to provide the services that people are accustomed to. In other words, you don't just hit the light switch and turn it off, and then a month or two later turn it back on and go back to normal. So our new reality is that we're having to make some deep and drastic cuts to our budget this year, which it's unlike anything that we've ever really experienced here before. We're doing the best that we can. We had a 2-hour finance committee meeting just the other night, and we're having to just make those adjustments. We're having to lower that sales tax revenue, and I'll tell you, we had our budget in place. We had it pretty much ready to go, and we were looking at a very minimal 1.5% increase. When we adjusted for the sales tax decline that we anticipate seeing, that same budget, that same tax hike went from 1% up to 15%. Obviously, 15% can't stand. We cannot have a 15% tax increase in a year that people are out of work, in a year where businesses are closed down. So we're having to really take a look at what services do we provide, which ones are essential, and which ones are non-essential. And you're seeing that in the business world, right? You're seeing the essential businesses are open, the grocery stores and things of that nature are open, and everything else is closed. And for the city of Hornell and municipalities across this state, they're going to be in the same boat, having to make those hard decisions because the money just won't be there.
one of the big draws in Hornell as far as out-of-town shopping goes is the big plaza there in the North Hornell area. Wondering, will the pilot money, the payment in lieu of taxes money, do you think that'll still be coming in from the stores, the bigger box stores there that pay the pilots?
Yeah, I mean, I don't anticipate the pilots stopping. I think those monies will continue to come in, but what I'm talking about is the sales tax. People buying big ticket items. Try go buying a car right now. You can't do that. People aren't buying washers and dryers. They're not buying refrigerators. They're not buying all of these big ticket items. Everything is effectively closed down. So commerce has come to a grinding halt. People aren't spending money. It doesn't generate sales tax. Another thing, gas. When gas prices naturally fall, sales tax falls with it because sales tax is a percentage of that. Now, with everything shut down, with the schools shut down, you're not driving your kid to school, you're not picking them up from school, you're not going to your child's soccer game or your child's baseball game out of town, you're not going on vacation, you're not driving to the mall. So the gasoline sales themselves are plummeting. We were just talking to a local person here in Hornell just the other day. He said his gas sales were down 60%. So, again, this has long-reaching ramifications, and we're going to be feeling it for a while. So, this year will be unlike any that you've seen before. The cuts that we're having to make are deep, drastic, and necessary. But, the last thing we want to do here at the city is start laying people off. We have positions. We have a couple positions coming up that we're planning on interviewing for because of people that are retiring, and we're having to pull the plug on that because we're not going to backfill those positions because we're not in a financial position to do so right now. And again, this isn't going to be unique to Hornell. This is everyone. I've been having conversations with people at the county level. I've been having conversations with other mayors. I've been having conversations with people at the state level, trying to get a gauge on how much of a decline in revenues the cities and the villages and the counties are going to see, and the estimates are anywhere from 10% to 20%, which is enormous.
Mayor Buckley, you touched on the topic of gasoline sales there, which caught my attention because I'd been kind of wondering how are things for gas stations and in terms of hoarding gas, but it doesn't sound like anybody is hoarding gasoline at the moment. It sounds quite the opposite, Mayor Buckley.
No, I mean, I don't think too many people are hoarding gas. There might be a handful here or there that are filling up extra gas cans just in case, but actually, it's quite the opposite. People just aren't driving, and when you're not driving, you don't need the gas. I walked down to the corner gas station the other day here, right around the corner from City Hall, and walked in, and the place was empty. And I asked him, I said, "Has it been this low?" And the employee behind the counter said, "Yeah, it's been dead in here," and that's kind of what it's been like, not just here, but all around. People aren't driving. You don't see the traffic on 36 that you normally would. Main Street, you don't see the cars parked. You just don't. We just don't have. People are. There's a lot of people that aren't working, so they're either laid off or they're working from home, so they're not driving to and from work. So all of this has that cumulative effect, and it all adds up, and it all adds up quickly.
Hoarding in general, this is something that everyone from President Donald Trump to Attorney General Barr to Governor Andrew Cuomo to you, Mayor John Buckley, have been discouraging. Do you have a sense of, is that still going on in local stores?
It has been, and but I think we're starting to see it subside to a degree because realistically, how much toilet paper can you really stock up on? How many cans of soup? How many boxes of cereal? How many boxes of mac and cheese can you really? How much do you really need before it gets to the point of ridiculousness? And I said this before. I'm not I'm not eating any more food now than I was 2 months ago. I'm not using any more toilet paper now than I was 2 months ago. So, realistically, do you need all that? There's not a lack of food in the supply line. There's not a lack of toilet paper. There's not a lack of any of these goods. They're out there, but when people panic, they rush to the grocery store, stock up, hoard all of this stuff, then it puts pressure on the supply lines to repopulate that and to replenish those warehouses, which in turn have to replenish the stores. So it puts a strain on the supply line. It creates a backlog, if you will, because there's only so many drivers out there and only so many trucks to deliver those goods, and they're having to work double duty to do it. So, but I think you're going to start to see that subside to an extent, and I think you're already seeing it.
Talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley on this. What is this, the third Newsmaker in a row that I'm doing this morning? At 8:30 we had on Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns and two doctors from St. James and the CEO from St. James at 9. And once again, it's Mayor John Buckley. Mr. Mayor, President Donald Trump is hoping that he can get the business shutdowns the lift on that. He'd like to lift a lot of the business shutdowns on Sunday, April 12th, which is Easter. Governor Andrew Cuomo has been asked, what do you think of the president's goal to do this? Lift the shutdowns on a lot of these businesses nationwide, here in New York State. And Governor Andrew Cuomo, instead of taking the bait that the reporters give him, what do you think of the president? Governor Cuomo answers on a positive. He says he'd like to get a lot of the youth back to work at that point. What do you think of the goal, Mayor Buckley, of April 12th, Easter, as far as getting a lot of the businesses opened again?
Well, I think you really have to rely on the professionals in the medical community and really rely on their advice as to, when it's safe to start, reopening some of these businesses. Obviously, the president is the eternal optimist, and, in large part it's his job to kind of be a cheerleader and to, have that, make sure people are staying positive. I was watching the same interview as you're referencing, and, he basically set it as a goal. I would like to see it. He didn't say that, it was going to happen. But that's what you do when you're the president, when you're a governor. You have to be optimistic. You have to have that message of positivity. And if I take anything from, the president and the governor right now, and as far as the political environment is concerned, it's really amazing when you have a president and a governor who are opposed on so many different policy positions, but who have two individuals who are both New Yorkers and who both really come together in this time of crisis. And it's beautiful and heartwarming to see the president and the governor work that closely together during this.
I have to say I get calls in the newsroom with people who are usually conservatives saying how glad they are to hear the governor and the president getting along. We're going to take a quick break. We're on with Mayor John Buckley this morning on the third Newsmaker in a row. Stay with us.
This advertisement is being used for the purpose of soliciting sales of a timeshare plan. Restrictions apply. Go to westgateterms.com for complete offer terms.
I took my family on a vacation like the one you're about to hear about, and we had an amazing time. And the best part about it was the price.
If you're looking for an amazing, fun-filled vacation for you and your family for an unbelievable price, keep listening for details on how you can get a fabulous 4-day vacation for just $99.
Hey there, budget-minded travelers. Want a 4-day vacation package for just $99? Be one of the first 100 callers right now to Westgate Resorts to book this amazing offer. Westgate Resorts has your next dream vacation for just $99. Call right now to learn more.
Call 800-883-1612. 800-883-1612. 800-883-1612. Again, that's 800-883-1612.
Paid for by Westgate Resorts.
College Suppliers in Hornell is open for all your printing needs, scanning, faxes, email. College Suppliers, print quick at 15 Church Street in Hornell.
We're back with Mayor John Buckley here on the Newsmaker on AM 1480 WLEA. Mayor Buckley, back to the should we go back to the topic of sales tax and local businesses? And that's something that Hornell Industrial Development Agency consultant Sean Hogan's talked about. What he says the different times he's been on is go to sba.gov, that's Small Business Administration.gov, for anyone who's anything from a hairdresser to a restaurant owner.
Yeah, and there are some programs that are starting to roll out to help some of the small business owners, to try to either in the form of loans or hopefully even more grants that are coming down the pike. And the former mayor and I have been in communication, and we've talked about some of these things, and we're trying to get that information out the best we can. As information comes out from the state or the federal government, we've been posting it on our city Facebook page to try to get that information out to the folks here locally. But one of the things that we're closely monitoring right now is the passage of the $2 trillion stimulus package that the Senate just approved, and now it'll go to the House of Representatives. Actually, later today, I have a phone conference with Congressman Reed, and we're hoping to get some of the details that are in this bill. I do have the bill on my desktop. I was just starting to look at it prior to the interview. I can tell you it's 880 pages, Brian. So there's a lot in there. What we're trying to find out quickly is what relief is included for individuals, what relief is included for small business owners, and what relief, if any, is included in the stimulus package for local governments. And that's obviously something that you and I have been talking about this morning, because I hope and I pray that there's relief for everyone, and it's not just micro-targeted in this, because everyone's going to be affected by this. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You don't just shut things down for a week or 2 weeks or a month. And the thing is, no one knows how long this is going to last, because the cases are growing by the day, by the hour, and the thing is, seems to be spreading exponentially, at least here in New York State. Although here in Steuben County, we've been very fortunate. There's been a limited amount of positive tests thus far. So, but it does have long-reaching ramifications. If I can, Brian, I just want to comment on the job that St. James is doing. With the leadership of Brian O'Donovan, the CEO at St. James, we are so fortunate and so lucky to have a dedicated professional like Brian O'Donovan here, and the doctors and the nurses and the healthcare providers that we have, Dr. Izzy Meir, Dr. John Robshaw. I mean, these are just top-notch people that are devoted to our community, devoted to healthcare. And I have no doubt in my mind that our new hospital is going to be very, very successful for generations to come. And the reason why is because we have great people there. We have great stakeholders in our community that care about our community, that care about the people in our community, that want to deliver the best health care that they can possibly deliver to our community. And it's really those people, it's those individuals that are going to drive this and make that successful for years to come.
I noticed, and I'm sure you did too, Mayor Buckley, that when Brian O'Donovan, the St. James CEO, was on, he complimented the Hornell area for the people's practicing of social distancing, and for not using coming in unnecessarily. Dr. Robshaw commented on that too, that people are doing exactly what the officials are asking them to in not coming in for smaller things.
Yeah, and I think people, at least in our area, they get it. They understand. No one wants to get sick, right? You don't want to take those unnecessary risk. You don't want to expose yourself if you don't have to. So, I think for by and large, most people in our area, in our community, are heeding that advice, and they're hunkering down, and they're doing the things that they need to do to protect themselves and their families. And kudos to the medical staff here, and we have a great team, and it's not just in the city itself. We have a great county manager in Jack Wheeler at Steuben County, and he's been doing an amazing job getting the word out. And Jack Wheeler and I, we're in constant communication. I've talked to him many times, just as I'm in constant communication with Brian O'Donovan and other leaders throughout the community and region and state. So it's really a team effort. It's a collaborative effort, but ultimately, yes, the residents are definitely doing their part. And these are tough times, Brian. I mean, there is no doubt. This is like nothing that I've ever encountered. Not in my wildest imagination would I have ever thought we'd be going through a crisis like this, to this magnitude. Usually when a country's going through a crisis, you think of a war, or you think of 9/11 where we were attacked. You wouldn't normally think of a pandemic where there's this invisible force that's out there that's creeping up on you, and it's something you can't see, something you don't know where it is, and but it's out there, and it's paralyzing to a degree, but we'll get through it. We have a great community. We have the strongest nation in the world. We have great people. We have great health care. We have great professionals. We have great leadership, and we will get through this together and be stronger for it.
Mayor John Buckley, checking my emails there while you were answering. I was looking for an email from Governor Andrew Cuomo to see what time his morning briefing will be, if there's going to be one today. I see there's an email from Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. She's sending out an email with a list of all the numbers that people can contact. She, like you and Mayor Hogan, or former Mayor Hogan, Sean Hogan with the IDA now, pushing the Small Business Administration. Mayor Buckley, I'm wondering, I don't know, I know you're so busy. I was wondering, do you have any emails or get any phone calls this morning about the deal that the Senate worked on overnight? Do you know if there's anything in there that would pertain to us locally around here?
Well, as I mentioned a few moments ago, before this interview, I just received the bill on my computer, and it's 880-page bill. So, I obviously haven't had time to read every page of it yet, but we do have the phone conference with Congressman Reed coming up this afternoon, and the congressman, we're hopeful he's going to highlight some of the provisions within the stimulus package that will affect our local residents, our local, our workers who are unemployed now, our businesses that have had to close their doors, and we'll see. We'll hash out what details are in it and what relief we can expect to see from it.
Okay. We got a couple of minutes left. Was there anything I did not bring up that you wanted to talk about, Mayor Buckley?
Yeah, just a couple of things. Some of the response from the city itself. We instituted a curfew, that you know about, and that pertains to those 17 years of age and under, between between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. rather. So, we are doing things to, try to, at the city level to try to reduce people's exposure and, put these safety precautions in. We had to shut down the HAT bus system to all outside runs of the city. So the HAT bus is only operating, it's doing the inner-city route, and the dial-a-ride is still available. But with everything going on, we wanted to, limit the exposure of the drivers and just focus on, what the essential needs are, and that's getting people, to and from the hospital, to and from the grocery store. So that's really our focus with HAT right now. Police and ambulance, they continue to, police, fire, and ambulance rather, they continue to be 100% staffed with no reductions. So we still have that service in place. The water filtration plant, the water pollution control plant are also fully staffed and operational. And, we talked about hoarding a little while back, and, one of the things that we were noticing that people were hoarding was bottled water. Our city water is 100% safe. The virus is not in our water. It will not be in our water. It goes through a multi-step process. It's chlorinated. It is 100% safe. If you have city water, you have no need to go out and buy bottled water. So I just want to reassure everyone that our city water is not affected and is totally safe. So, but yeah, essential services are ongoing. Your garbage will still be picked up. We're still here at City Hall, although reduced hours because of the staffing requirements that the governor has imposed. So we're only open from 8 o'clock in the morning until noon. So then the phone lines are shut down after that. I will say, I'm still here. I've been working more hours than I ever have during this crisis, and we'll continue to do so. So we're doing all we can to provide those essential services to residents during this difficult time. But those are some of the things that we're doing here locally, Brian. Just trying to get through this crisis together.
Mayor John Buckley, I want to thank you very much for coming on here this morning and for helping inform the public. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks for having me, Brian. Appreciate it.
It's AM 1480 WLEA Hornell.